Right, so welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the joining our webinar on preparing for a startup loan application, which is part of the British Business Bank Finance Week. Just a few housekeeping points before we continue. So this webinar has been designed to run you through the startup loan application process. There'll be a chance for questions and answers after every session. And for this, you'll need to use the QA function, and then we'll go through those at the end, wherever we meet, wherever we get there. For any reason we haven't been able to answer any of your questions, please do feel free to drop us an email or contact details at the end of this presentation. So this presentation will be circulated to you all at the end of the event. And finally, please be aware that this presentation is actually being recorded. Okay. Before I introduce myself and Mark as your host, I'd like to introduce Lloyd Breener, who's the Senior Manager at the British Business Bank, just to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Joe. Yes, I just wanted to say a couple of things at the start here, really. That first of all, delighted to welcome everybody today. And that includes everybody who's watching on catch up as we're recording today. So that's a good, useful feature, I think. And today's the first day of Business Finance Week, entitled Funding Your Startup. Some of you may have attended earlier the nationwide introduction to startup loans before lunch. And that was really quite good, lots of good case studies. And it reminded me how much impact the startup loan product or service actually has with businesses, and how it really operates in that space where others don't operate, that high risk early stage part of the business journey. And it's so important to help businesses get going. I and my colleagues at British Business Bank are really very grateful to Swig Finance for hosting this really useful event, and in particular to the speakers today, Mark and Joe, who will be helping you prepare for making a startup loan application. And back over to you and Mark, Joe.
All right, so hello. So Swig Finance, we're the Southwest's leading CDFI, which is Community Development Finance Institution. We've been established for more than 30 years, supporting businesses that are unable to secure funding from mainstream lenders. We're an accredited delivery partner for the British Business Bank, and we've been working with them for just over 10 years, or approximately 10 years. So the hosts today are myself. I'm Joe McEachran. I'm a startup loans officer with Swig Finance. I've got a business degree in business enterprise. I've got a PGCE. I've run my own business and worked in the industry for lots and lots of years. And over to Mark.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So say my name is Mark. I've been involved with the startup loan scheme for 8 years. Been in commercial finance for over 20 years. Previously was a commercial bank manager. So we've got a team of business advisors that work at Swig. Obviously me and Joe plus 2 others. That bring kind of a wealth of experience and knowledge to help businesses present a strong case to achieve their desired outcome, which will be getting a loan approved. So that's basically us as a team. It's a very busy team. We all work remotely from home, come into the office one day a week to kind of share best practices and actually talk through various applications that we deal with. The scheme is been established now for 10 years. We've been involved in the startup loan scheme since inception, and the scheme has evolved over that time, as you can probably appreciate. But it's a busy scheme. As business advisors, we've probably got between 100 and 150 applications each that we're looking at any given time. So it's a high volume kind of program, and we're hoping that today will kind of help you to gain a bit more knowledge on how to present a credible application, so that you get the loan approved. But yeah, what we'll be talking about today is again is how you present that, and hopefully you'll gain some knowledge from that throughout the rest of this presentation. So yeah, Joe, if you want to kind of talk through
yeah, I'll go
the
through
sort
the
of
basics.
basics, yeah.
Thank you. So could any of you that are participating put in the question or answers box, if you want to, of course, about what sort of businesses that you'll be running, what sector that you'll be working in, whether it be retail, hospitality, manufacture, something like that. So that we can just come up with some more tailored examples, really. So the basics, your application. So what we'll be going through is the executive summary, which is just the snapshot of the business and its operating situation, your business objectives, how you're going to use the loan, your skills and experience, your target customers, what market research you've done, your marketing and sales plans, your operational plans, your backup plan, and a bit of risk analysis. So I was looking through all of this. So a gardening business, right? Okay. So really, if you just Google the 7 Ps of the marketing mix, it's a marketing theory, but it actually covers all of this, which covers the operations side of the business, how you're going to be selling, what you're going to be selling, and at what price. And there's a lot of comparables, which would give you a really good insight into the preparations needed. So if we're going to move on, we'll go through all of these in a little bit more detail as the webinar continues. Okay. So what business model is it? How will your business build value and generate profits? So you need to convey understand about what your business model is. Is it going to be business to business? Is it going to be business to customers? Is it online sales? What your average customer is, the products and services that you're going to be offering, covering the value chain position. So what are the processes for getting the product and services to your customers? What benefits will the customer get from your product or service? And the cost drivers and revenue sources, which is one of the most important things, really, is understanding what you're going to be selling, how much you're going to be selling it for in order to meet the costs of your business. And competitive advantage. So what makes your business different from its competitors? So as an example for that, I take my mum shopping into town. She gets a bit tired on her legs. I could take her to a Wetherspoons to sit down and have a cup of coffee and rest her legs for a little bit. But actually, just down the road every Saturday, there's a lovely little cafe that makes the best homemade brownies in the world. So the competitive advantage is the cafe down the road has that competitive advantage, because effectively they still offer a seat and a cup of coffee and somewhere to rest, but it's a far nicer experience. So that's your competitive advantage, okay? And what business models are eligible? Over to Mark.
Okay, so yeah, I think what we're probably just position in terms of what is required to proceed with an application. Part of what we need to assess any application is a business plan and a cash flow forecast. So there are templates that are provided by the scheme. Our preference is always to use our own templates, because obviously we know it gives us all of the information that we need in order to make a lending decision. With our template, there is a lot of help and guidance within that business plan to kind of point you in the right direction for the level of detail that you need to go and provide. Yeah, obviously, as you can appreciate, with any kind of lending scheme, there has to be some kind of eligibility with the types of businesses that are supported by the scheme. Yeah, you know, probably the slide there kind of tells you quite clearly the sort of things that we won't get involved in. So obviously anything illegal is, you know, we shouldn't be using taxpayers' money to fund anything that's illegal. Anything to do with anything of an overtly sexual nature, again, reputationally, we wouldn't want to get involved in anything like that. Businesses that formally that are in the finance world, so any businesses that provide onward credit or investment claims, debt collection, anything like that is not supported by the scheme. So yeah, residential properties, onward letting, again, that is not what the scheme is designed for. The scheme is designed for people that are looking to start or grow a business, okay, not somebody that's looking to grow a property portfolio or build their own house. That is not what the scheme is designed for, okay. So fairly standard stuff there that you'd probably expect to see in terms of eligibility types, and also in terms of eligibility, there are certain things that we will not fund as well. So anything that is not related to starting or growing a business isn't supported by the scheme. So just to give you an example, if you've got an existing business that you're part owner of, and one of your partners is looking to vacate the business, and you're looking to raise funds to pay off that partner, that isn't starting or growing a business, okay? So that wouldn't be funded by the scheme, okay? If you're looking to purchase a business, okay, so you work in a business as an employee and you have the opportunity to buy that business, we could potentially look at providing the funding for that, okay? We will not fund anything that does in terms of personal debt, so debt consolidation, repaying loans to family members or anything like that is not supported by the scheme. We will not fund training or anything to do in terms of obtaining qualifications in order to be able to start trading. The scheme is expecting you to have all of the relevant training and qualifications that you need to start trading and actually being able to repay this loan, okay? And it will not pay for deposit on residential properties or make structural changes to any residential property that require planning consent. So they're the main reasons or main purposes that we will not fund. Has anybody got any questions on that?
So just so that you know, Mark, we've got some food and drink, e-commerce and business to business companies, tech companies, recruitment agency, and a gardening business.
Okay.
So has anybody got any questions with regards to eligibility and the business model? Okay, so should we move on? So the executive summary. So this covers basically how the business functions, how much you own of the business. Are you a sole trader? Are you a limited company? Is it a partnership? If it's a partnership agreement, we would need to see that partnership agreement in place. Where do you operate from? So is it a home-based business? Do you have business premises? Because we'll need to see the lease to ensure that the lease term is for the length of the loan. Any key business performance to date. So if you've been trading already, if you're an existing business, or whether you've done a little bit of test trading, any key milestones that you've achieved. So have you built the website? Have you got all the all the plans in place, ready to go? Have you got web hosting, etc., and all these things in place? Have you ordered a specialist bit of equipment that's got a delay in delivery time? Just things like that that we'd need to know. Yeah, obviously how much of the business you own, because you need to own 50% of the business in order to be able to make a loan application. And I did, and used it as the box as an opportunity to explain what products and services you sell, and a little bit about why you've decided to go into business, why you've decided to do whatever trade it is that you've decided to do. So what do you bring with you? And if you've got any purchase orders in place, so pre-orders, etc., and the value that these will bring. Okay. Oh, so moving on to the value proposition. Mark?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was getting distracted by, I've got a message that pinged up, Joe, that basically said the chat service isn't working. So it's just the questions aren't going via chat. I think they're going for Q&A.
Right, I've got both of those windows open, so
no,
I
couldn't see anything in the Q&A. So yeah, there we go. I got sidetracked there. That's right. But yeah, so I'm now going to talk about value proposition. I'm just bringing up the slide here. Yeah, so basically, part of the business plan here is you need to convey that why your customers, what is it that your customers have told you that they want, okay, and how you're going to address those needs. So you kind of got to think about, well, why should I use your garden service? What's so unique about you? And why are you going to be different from everyone else? Now, obviously, look, you know, a lot of applications that we deal with, it's going to be very hard to pinpoint what's so unique about you. But I think what we're going to kind of think about is, well, okay, well, what is it that you bring to the table? It may be that you've got 20, 30 years of experience in that sector, and that you've got kind of a good network of potential clients that you could go to. So just, you know, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel with a lot of this. It's just thinking about practical is, okay, you're going to start up this business. What is it that people are gonna want to come to you? Okay. So you just be kind of honest with yourself as to why you think your proposition is better than anybody else. Okay. I mean, look, there's other bits in the slides here, which is around value proposition, how the benefits and features and experience. Again, look, what you kind of got to think about is keep it very, very simple. Okay. As I said to you earlier on, we're dealing with about 150 applications that are landing on our desk at any given time. So we have to look at something to kind of go, okay, well, I get that. You know, this is somebody that's been working in that business or working in that sector for a number of years. He should know his stuff. You should know his onions. Okay, and if you don't, you're stuck. Well, okay, well, what other skills are you bringing to this that kind of will show that you can kind of win your customers? Okay, so yeah, do you want to go to the next slide, Joe?
Yeah, so the value proposition it's about the product offering, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's identifying the benefits and the features and the customer experience, and whether that meets the needs of the customer or whether they'll find a substitute. Oh, sorry. So has anybody got any questions about the executive summary and the value proposition?
I'll take that as a no.
No, I can't see any questions coming up. Right, so moving on to business objectives. Mark?
Yeah, so business objectives basically was split into kind of 3 sections really: short term, i.e. the next 12 months, medium term, 1 to 2 years, and then longer term. So think about what it is that you're going to be setting yourself as a target over the next 12 months. And with anything to do with objectives, target setting, it needs to be very specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be achievable and realistic and time bound. You've got to be able to measure these things that you're doing. So we're just giving some examples there on the sheet with regards to the sort of, you know, the sort of normal kind of objectives that we'd expect there. So example 1, develop a website that is transaction based, customers can place orders. Okay, that's specific. You can measure that. Okay, it should be realistic that you're going to be able to do that within a year. Okay. Second example there is create a customer relationship management framework. Again, very specific, you can time bound and you can measure it. Okay. Reduce direct costs by 20%, negotiate a better deal with suppliers. Okay, again, very specific. I'm just go to the next slide, Joe. So we haven't listed there the kind of medium term. Oh, sorry, that's on the right hand side. That's me. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So medium term, again, sort of things that you'd kind of be thinking after you've been trading a year that you'd want to be aiming for. You know, examples: increase revenue by 5% each next quarter. You know, again, it's specific to you. This is your business plan. This is what you want to do. So we've just put some suggestions there, the kind of things that we would normally expect. Your examples, your targets would be obviously down to you. Now, what we would be looking at with, you know, in terms of those targets that you do put in there, we will throw a challenge back to you to kind of just make sure that it makes sense and that you own those targets, and that you know there's no point setting yourself up for something that is totally unrealistic, because that doesn't do you or us any favors. So we will sense check anything that you put in the business plan just to make sure that it makes sense. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So moving on to finding the rationale, the loan funding rationale. So it's really important to get this right. So you're not making an application for more finance than what you're genuinely going to need, where you can have a little bit of working capital, etc. This is a place to identify the key bits that you're applying for the funding for. So whether that be in the case of the gardener, so whether that be a specialist bit of kit or a digger, a little bit of working capital to help with buying the materials first for a job to allow before they pay, for the tech companies. So is that a bit of software development, etc., that needs to take place? Is it a marketing plan? And the recruitment agency, so is that access to the job boards, etc., and credits and things like that? Because I'm obviously in recruitment, and there's always a lag in the payments as well before you start generating income, as it were. So with the funding rationale, please provide us with links or quotes or any documentation that you have that supports that amount. We don't need it down to the penny. I don't need to know how many washers and screws that you buy for or drill bits that you may need to buy, but for the big justification of the cost, any specialist kit, etc. Like I said, in quotes, think about the funding that you're going to need for the next 12 months. But please bear in mind that you are going to be generating income. Well, hopefully, as long as your business is successful, we very much hope so, that your business will be generating income. So obviously there'll be an element of the costs can be funded by the income that you're receiving from the business. But we don't want you to be in a position that you're set up but haven't quite got enough funding for your business. Also, when you're looking at buying kits, as an example, do you really need the most modern, most up-to-date, the new all singing, all dancing laptop, as an example, when, you know, you could spend £700 on a laptop, which may not have all the bows and ribbons and like be a Apple Mac or something like that, but it will still do that purpose for you. So just justify the costings, and because you don't really want to get into a position where you've taken on more debt than what you need to for your business to start up. Okay, so has anybody got any questions about objectives and funding rationale? Yeah, I can't see any questions coming through. Is everyone clear with that? So when you look at the template as well, there is guidance on the right-hand side, all the way through the template for the business plan. It's probably one of the most user-friendly business plans that I've ever seen, to be honest. The guidance that it shows you on the right really does help you through. So please come through with any questions if you do have them. So we'll move on, if that's okay, to skills and experience. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, so this section for me is really, really important in terms of really getting underneath how credible this business plan is. And I think a lot of people skim over this, if I'm honest with you, in terms of when they present the business plan. I mean, at the end of the day, the business plan is only as good as the person behind it. So for me, it's actually understanding who is delivering this business plan. And that really comes down to understanding someone's background and experience and knowledge within whatever it is that they're, you know, whatever business there is that they're setting up. As I said, a lot of, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have bags and bags of experience and you know, under your belt to launch that business. Obviously, it's more desirable, it always helps, but there could be a very good mix of transferable skills that you've got that would lean quite nicely into whatever business it is that you're going into. Okay. We will look at qualifications in terms of what specific qualifications are required to start this business. So just to give you an extreme, if somebody was looking to become a HGV driver, but hasn't even passed their HGV driving test, then obviously we would look at that and kind of go, well, you're not quite ready. We would also want to look at what relevant qualifications you must have, as opposed to a nice to have. So if somebody was looking to be a dog groomer, for instance, whilst there are various qualifications out there, it's not a prerequisite that you have to have those qualifications behind your belt. So again, it really comes down to your qualifications and skills. Again, it may be something that you've been doing as a hobby for a number of years. You might have been doing this for, you know, in terms of friends and family, and now looking to create this as a business. Okay, but again, as I said, the business plan, this is one of the sections where I think a lot of people kind of just gloss over. But for me, it's probably one of the most important bits, because it just tells me about you as an individual and why should we be investing in you to launch this business.
All right.
Okay. Next slide.
So then also in that part in the business plan, it's about putting you in the business, about what you're passionate about, what drove you to start this business. You know, whether it be eco credentials, you know, you want a sustainable way of living, maybe you know, your child's celiac, so you started a catering business that's wheat free. What's got you to this point to be able to make this application for funding to start your own business? Another way to look at it is, would you give yourself a job? Would you give yourself the job in your own business? Because in all reality, you know, if your business grows sufficiently, you are going to have to be taking on people. And what skills would you be looking for that they have, and attributes that they have to bring to your business? And do you have those yourself? Please communicate it to us, because it's really difficult to understand people's personalities, etc., through the Excel spreadsheet, and you need to convey that. It's like the elevator pitch. Make sure you put yourself into the business plan so that we can all see your passions and what's driven you to do what you're doing today. All right, so your values as well, and if you've got business values and a mission statement, fantastic, get those in there as well, so that we can see that, see what the fundamental part of your business is and what you bring to it. Okay, has anybody got any questions about skills and experience?
Joe, I can see there's a couple of new questions in the Q&A. I think one of them,
oh, I see.
Yeah, one's asking to go back a little bit, but I'll leave you and Mark to decide how to handle that.
Absolutely. So can we see find the rationale? Yeah, absolutely. And do we provide loans at the earliest stage based on a solid business plan, so the loan can be used to pay for a company formation cost, website and a web-based company, etc.? Mark, do you want to do that? And I'll go back to the funding rationale.
Sorry, what question was that, Joe?
So Joseph Mardones has asked, do you provide loans at the earliest stage based on a solid business plan, so the loan can be used to pay for company formation costs, such as a website, for a website-based company?
Okay, all right. Okay, Joseph, so I'm just looking here. So early stage, based on a solid business plan. Okay. In answer to your question, yes, the scheme does provide funding for very early stage businesses. Also, we can look at businesses that be pre-revenue, so the R&D stage. Now we do have a set criteria on that, because obviously what we need to understand with any business that we're funding is how far away are you from being able to generate revenue. And if that is quite a long lead in, what we need to understand is that you've got affordability of that loan before pre-revenue. Because this is a personal loan, okay, we need to obviously understand how you would personally afford the repayments should the business not be generating revenue. I don't know if that's answered your question there, Joseph. I don't know if you can give me a thumbs up or kind of just a reply on that.
Yeah, I can't see. So if I just go to Nai's question on the loan breakdown or the funding rationale. So if you made an application for £25,000, but in your list of things that you need to purchase for the business, say you're getting £2,000 marketing plan, a piece of equipment for £3,000, and then a little bit of working capital, there's no way that I could justify a £25,000 loan if you've only highlighted £6,000 or £7,000 worth of equipment and products that you need to purchase for the business startup. So we will go through the cash flow, etc. later, which does help and get you to understand. But so if you needed to buy a particular software, CRM system, a marketing plan, pay the deposit for premises, etc., then we can factor all of that in. But we just need it broken down. There's a table in the business plan that shows you that, for you to explain what it is, how much it is, and the rationale beside it. And then obviously, you know, we'd need to see some quotes or something to justify that cost. Is that all right for you, Nye? Is that okay? So Joseph's asked, are all loans personal loans? So all the loans for this scheme are personal loans to you, for you to start up your business. Where we hope, we strongly hope, and this is why the template, etc., is here, we hope that your business is going to be able to make those monthly payments to pay back the loan. However, as it's a personal loan to you, should your business not be able to make those repayments any month or indeterminately, then you would still be liable. Even if your business is a limited company, it is loaned to you on a personal basis. All right, Joseph, is that okay? So the loans go from £500 to £25,000 over a term, the maximum being 5 years. Okay. Is that all right? No, was that Naya Krong, was that all right with your answer with the funding rationale? And has anybody else got any other questions?
There's just one more question here from Joseph. These loans vary from what amount to what amount? Okay, so minimum amount, Joseph, is £500. Maximum amount is 25,000 per business owner. So the scheme is capped at a maximum of providing 4 loans to the same business. So the scheme is capped at £100,000, although individually that is capped at 25,000 per owner.
Okay. So we're going to move on to market research. So market research it's a really vital activity that will help you obtain that competitive advantage, helping grow profit and your market position. So market research, it will help you identify who your customers are. It will help you identify how to reach them. It will help you pick the best channels in order to make contact and communicate with them, and help understand your customer acquisition costs. So customer acquisition cost is the outlay of any marketing strategy and how many customers you get new customers you get on the back of that. So being completely basic, so if you spent £100 on handing out leaflets and you got 3 customers from that leaflet strategy, the customer acquisition cost would be £33 per customer. Okay, obviously, you know, when you move into Google and Facebook ads and, you know, online, it's a bit different, but just in its basic form, there's an explanation for you. It helps you identify your competitors. So what are other people offering? And do they match, or do they offer an equal substitute? Helps you find your competitive advantage and helps you formulate your pricing strategies. So you need to be able to price your product that's in line with the market, really, but covering all your costs as well. If you're unable to do that and your target, your pricing strategy is too high for your target market, it's very likely that you wouldn't have a business anyway, because people wouldn't be able to afford your product. So it's just finding the balance, really, so that you can sell your product at the price you need to make enough profit, and you may need to re-evaluate who your target market is and who you're going to advertise it to. Okay. And then market research, identifying your target customers. So you need to identify why a customer would want to buy your product or service. So the example that they've given here is toothpaste with stain removing formulas. So stain removing is the feature, and the benefit to the customer is whiter teeth. So now consider the customers who would need to use this product. And then it's really important to segment them down. So looking at the demographics of your customers, looking at the geographics. So are you targeting locally? So in the case of the gardener that's listed there, would they be offering services nationally or internationally, or would their marketing strategy be more focused on a local basis? Okay. And then understanding the psychographics of people. So what are the influencing factors on their buying decisions? What drives them? So is sustainability a key factor? Your attitudes, beliefs, and emotions. So are they an early converter, as it were? So would they need the newest mobile phone? Do they need the newest technology? And things like that. And then do some research in your market. So using primary and secondary research methods, research is segmented markets to build a customer analysis. So then I'm going to move over to Mark. Oh no, that's me. I beg your pardon. Sorry, apologise.
Supply chain. Yeah.
Yeah, going through the supply chain also. So things that you need to look at are premises. So if you need to operate out of the premises, have you got that lease in place? Now, this is one of the biggest chicken and egg situations that we face, because quite a lot of businesses want to start up. They want funding for the deposit, so they can't get the lease until they've got the funding. So it's the chicken and egg situation. So what we do accept a draft lease, but we would need to see that it cover the term of the loan. See whether you've had break clauses or things like that put into it. We'd like to see the draft lease. And also strongly recommend that you actually seek some legal advice with that. Get somebody to have a look at the lease, just to check that it does say everything that you need to do to protect yourself and your business. So also supply chain, you need to consider the staff. Are you going to be taking on staff? What experience do you have with employment? ACAS is a fantastic site that offers loads of advice to people taking on employing people, and that would highlight all the things that you need to do in order to employ people, but also identifying the people. Do you have those people already in place? As an example, I had an applicant that went through the other day, already had a key member of staff in place, ready to move in as soon as he was able to obtain his funding in order to be able to start his business. So having that security in place was great for him. Looking at the equipment. So what key equipment do you need? Do you need a specific type of bit of kit in order to be able to do the work that you need to do? Where are you going to get it from? What are the lead times? Is there shipping costs? Is it coming from overseas? Is there going to be delays from other sides? Having a look at all the equipment that you need, making sure that you've got all that kit available and you know where you're going to get it from. Most importantly, legalities. So you need to communicate that you're aware what tax legal and insurance regulations affect the business that you're going to be operating, and where relevant, you should have made or be making the appropriate arrangements to comply. So with the tech company, GDPR is always massive. Keeping hold of people's data is the public liabilities. They say here, for example, about personal licenses for opening a bar. So the food business, if they're going to be selling alcohol too, they need to have that license in place in order to be able to apply for funding for a business that sells alcohol. Okay. And evidence. Evidence. So evidence of operational costs, they need to be factored into the cash flow forecast. And also, in addition, any documentation that you need would be required to show, just upload it to the portal, such as your personal license, if you're in security, your SIA license, if you're applying for a startup loan for a vehicle for the gardening business, we'd ask to check that you've got the driving license, that you're able to do that. Is that okay? Is there any questions? Right, I'm sorry, there's a cash flow forecast question, wanting to apply for a loan to help with a rebrand, redefining value proposition. But is there a way you can estimate increases in revenue based on market position improvements? So if you're talking about a rebrand, I should imagine you've already got trade figures in place. Trying to work out how many more retailers will purchase or percentage increase in website traffic. So that would be factored into your sales assumptions and your cash flow forecast, yes. But we are going to go through that in the following slides. All right. So if I move on. Oh, so on to primary research, Mark, sorry. Over to you.
All right. So primary research, things that you can do yourself to kind of show that there is actually some demand for what it is that you're either selling or service that you're providing. Now, obviously, horses for courses, a lot, depending on the type of business that you're looking to go into, may be easy to define or to actually do surveys on. So again, we're not expecting, if just to give an example, somebody is looking to start a gardening maintenance business. You might not necessarily run a survey as such to determine what the demand is. Again, a lot of the time we'd be looking at, okay, well, what skills and experience have you got, okay, that you can bring and actually have shown that you know how to win customers. Okay, so yeah, sort of things that you can do in terms of actually trying to present in your business plan. Things that you can do are surveys. Okay, you can ask people in the street. You can maybe do an online survey to kind of give us some ideas, give you some idea is whatever it is that you're looking to launch, that there is actually a demand for that. Okay. Other things you can do, focus groups, get a group of potential target customers together and discuss what it is that you're looking to offer. Again, just to get an idea of feedback, and also for you to be able to engage kind of what the pricing is, what do you think that the market going rate for whatever it is that you're looking to sell or is going to be worth. Okay. Other things that you can kind of do, I've done this before where somebody was looking to set up a cafe in a high street, and actually had sat down opposite that cafe and actually just looked at how many people were walking into that shop, and just so that you get an idea of what the footfall is. So look, there's lots of things and creative things that you can kind of do, and as I said before, it doesn't have to be anything that you know. We're not expecting you to be able to present 1,000 or 100,000 survey. It's just that we're trying to understand what it is that you've done that kind of convinces you that there's actually a demand. Okay, and if you've not done any market research whatsoever, you know, you shouldn't be surprised that your business advisor would say to you, look, I think you need to kind of go away and see whether or not there is a demand for what it is that you're looking to do. Okay, so that's basically primary research. Jay, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah. Oh. There we are.
Yeah, so again, secondary research, online data. There's lots of online data available if you know, to kind of, you can get for free of charge. There's also various things that government agencies is, you know, again, it's a trustworthy source that you might be out, be able to get some access to some government data. Public libraries, again, another source of information that kind of gives you some details about your specific market, location, kind of population size, all of those kind of things, because it just kind of helps us understand what your thinking pattern is. Okay, so if you live in a location where it's like, okay, well, the population size is 30,000. Okay, well, how many customers are you thinking that you're going to need to get to make this business viable? It just shows us what your thought pattern is. Okay, again, you know, other things you can do, commercial information sources that are, you know, newspapers, journals, radio stations, lots of things that you can kind of go to from on a secondary basis to kind of convince you and us that there is a demand for what you're looking to sell. Next slide, Joe.
All right. Oh, so is there any questions regarding market research? While we're waiting for those to come in, Nye's turned around and asked about premises, about how about working from home. So there wouldn't be any cost associated with that. So you wouldn't be making any application for loan finance. You are able to run your business from home. That's absolutely fine. It keeps your overheads low, which is fantastic. It's a great starting point for your business. However, if you do need to have specialist planning permission take place, then obviously we'd need to see that planning permission. If you're in a rental accommodation, then we'd need to see from the landlord that they'd be happy for you to carry out your business from home. Mortgage advisors, well, mortgage, I beg your pardon. So, you know, is it a condition in your mortgage that you can't do that as well? You can't run a business from home? How many people are you going to be, are you going to be bringing a customer base to your place of home into a residential area? Is that going to be potentially disruptive to neighbours? That entirely depends upon your type of business. So if you were running barbers from your back garden, as an example, but you were planning on having 30 people a day turn up to your back garden with cars pulling up and cars leaving, would you need to have planning permission in place in order to be able to do so? Having a temporary structure in the back garden as opposed to a permanent structure, again, if you need planning permission, we'd need to see that. Does that answer that for you, Nye? I hope so. Mm-hmm. Right, so the marketing plan. Is that me? Right, sorry. So knowing your target customers helps you to plan for how to reach them. So obviously there's all the list there of certain ways to be able to reach your customers, but if you identify that your target customers are going to be the older generation, however, is advertising through online potentially the best way to reach your customers? That's building your marketing plan. Thinking about if you're an online business and you're selling countrywide, are you going to just drop some leaflets locally? It's trying to find the most appropriate way to have the biggest impact for any financial outlay that you have for marketing. So we've got search engine marketing, which is fantastic. Social media, Facebook. My son reliably informs me that that's for the old now, and TikTok and everything like that is if you're trying to reach the younger generation, the millennials. You know, other events and exhibitions. So if your business offering is predominantly business to business, are events and exhibitions going to be a better way to do so, and referrals. Advertising through traditional retail outlets. Thinking about your website as well, you know, what are people going to be able to find your website in order to be able to find your business? So alongside the business objectives, these also need to be smart. So you can, so any outlay of finance for your marketing plan, if you adapt a smart strategy to it for a KPI, it allows you to understand where your financial outlay is being best spent. Okay, so don't set yourself unrealistic goals. It's not helpful. And if you've not done it before, just do it gently, first of all, to start off with. Don't think that your business will start and you'll be able to sell 44,000 units because you've put an advert on Facebook. Keep it realistic and think about how you're going to measure it so that you can use that knowledge in the future in order to set appropriate strategies. Okay, is that all right? So moving on to the sales assumptions. Sorry, I was just trying to look to see sales assumptions. So in the template that we have, that's page 3 of the template. So in the template, everything that's highlighted blue auto populates from somewhere else. It auto calculates and auto populates. It's a fantastic thing. It gives you key information without having to work it all out yourself. Okay, so so moving on to this, I'm just going to zoom in on the top half there. So basically you can see here product and service 1, t-shirts 25 quid, that's how much they're retailed for. 12 quid is what they cost. So you've got a gross profit margin, which it works out itself at 52%. So looking down here, how much you think you're going to sell every month. So realistically, you're starting your business, a t-shirt shop. Realistically, you're going to be selling 10 in the first month. Okay, this is September, so t-shirts in September and October, not really high selling items. And then you're on the run up to Christmas, so sales have increased for November, December, and then in January it quietens back down. So that's just a little bit of an example about filling out the sales assumptions. So I'll move on to the next slide. And as you can see, it's auto-populated for those, how much you're going to be generating, how much it's going to cost you. Okay. And then look, it brings it all into the cash flow for you. So that happens with the personal survival budget as well. So I'll just go back a minute. So I just want to, when you're talking about the sales assumptions, it's really quite difficult with some industries. So as an example, the gardener, every particular job would be different. So it's just trying to think about the average cost So you would have, so say you had a large patio and refencing job that cost £12,000, would take you 3 weeks to do. So you just try and average it out about how much it would cost for that particular type versus a smaller patio or just a fence job, or just grass cutting, and then try and work out the averages. It's like with roofers. I've tried working it out with roofers before, just thinking about a standard, 3-bedroom terraced house. What would that cost? And that's how we try and factor in the cost of sales. The business to business catering company. So you would have product lines. So there would be, just as an example, cake, lunch, and beverages. Okay. So it's really important to think about, be realistic when you're looking at these sales assumptions. So please factor in that you are starting up. You are not going to be generating massive amounts of business in your very early stages while your business is embryonic, as it were. It will take a bit of time to build a reputation to be able to achieve those sales targets that you hope to be able to achieve. Please think about seasonality. Is Christmas, New Year, Mother's Day, etc. going to be busier times of the year for you? Are you going to be selling swimsuits in January versus dry robes in January, etc.? And please think about your capacity. So a perfect example of this was, there was an applicant for a pizza van. He said that he was going to be selling 1,000 pizzas per month, which, when you divide that by 26, because he's working 6 days a week, that's 38 pizzas a day. But he was only trading for 2 hours every day. So that would mean that he was selling 19 pizzas per hour on his own. That's making the pizzas, taking the orders, cooking the pizzas, selling the pizzas, taking the money, doing the whole transaction. And his pizza oven only had capacity for 3 ovens. It would be physically impossible for him to ever be able to achieve that with just one person. So please try and keep your sales assumptions realistic. Recognize that you are, if your business is starting from standing still, it's important to show the flow and the growth of your business. Okay. I've just had a question. So should I do that sales projection even if I haven't started selling? Yes. Yes, you need to get a bit of an idea of how many items you're going to be selling, and what you need to do in order to be able to start turning a profit and to be able to have a functioning business. Okay. So I'm just going to, so we've gone into the cash flow, so it carries it over. And then have you got any questions about the sales assumptions? Was that clear for everyone? Right, so Mark, over to you for the cash flow.
Okay, so the cash flow forecast, which is part populated by the sales and cost assumptions that Joe's just gone through. Now, just to kind of position what the cash flow document is trying to do, it's trying to replicate what a business bank account is going to look like throughout the next 12 months. So there's a starting balance and there's a closing balance. So if you think about looking at those figures as to try and plot what you think your business bank account is going to look like for each month, and if we're starting to see that the cash flow is going into a negative situation, that would immediately ask, well, an immediate will go into my mind is, well, how are you going to cover your costs whilst you're in a negative position? Okay, so the cash flow is pretty much a finger in the air as to what you think is likely to happen over the next 12 months. It also needs to be the starting point at which you actually get the loan. So if we look at this at the cash flow template,
Want me to move down to that?
yeah, if you could, yeah. So if we look at well, just above that, it's probably not come through there, Joe, but it actually tells you the month when you're looking to start. So this would normally be the month from when you actually get this loan. Okay, so if you were expecting to get the loan in November, the starting point would be November. Okay. Now, what we're trying to understand is what is the gap between you getting this loan between when you actually start to generate revenue, and there may be a gap. It may be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending on what your business model is looking like. Okay, and it's think about actually that gap at the point when you actually get paid. The cash flow forecast is about the flow of cash into the business and the flow of cash out of the business. So just because you've raised an invoice in month 1, you may not get paid until month 3, because your payment terms with your customers are that you have to give 60 days payment terms. So think about the actual flow of money in and out of that bank account. Okay. Now, what we expect to see in this cash flow forecast is the amount of loan that you've gone for. Okay. So actually online, it doesn't give the line number there, but it says value of your startup loan. So if you were applying for £25,000, you would put £25,000 to that figure. Okay. We'd also expect you to include any cash or other forms of investment that are going into the business at the start point as well. And below that, it's got existing business assets. Okay, so just trying to understand what assets has that business currently got or you got, and just to put a figure in there. Okay, which will also feed in further down in the cash flow out. Okay, because obviously existing assets, there is no flow of cash. You own those assets already. Okay, now in the starting point column, cash flow out, we would expect to see how you intend to spend the loan proceeds. Okay, now some of that may be spent immediately. Okay, so if you was buying a piece of equipment for £5,000, you would put in the starting point column under the line of equipment purchase, we would expect you to put a little bit of description there as to what it is that you're buying, maybe a van, and then the amount that you're going to spend on that van. Okay, if you were going to plan for a marketing budget, maybe your website, maybe a big marketing push, again, we'd expect to see that. If it's a big push at the beginning and the starting point, if it's spread over the course of 12 months, we would expect it to be showing in the month that you're predicting to spend that money. Okay, so the cash flow includes most of the expected costs that we see for most businesses. Now, some of those costs might not apply. You may be a business that doesn't rent premises. You may be purely mobile. So therefore, some of these costs might not apply. You only need to put in a figure if it is relevant to your business. That said, we would expect that there be some costs in there, even it be for insurance, something for phone, some marketing. We would expect some figures to be completed in there. This document, if I'm honest with you, is probably one document in terms of the cash flow is the main thing that people struggle with, because it is trying to plot what's happening in the future. And we appreciate that that is very, very difficult to do. Okay. Now, what I would say is that there seems to be two schools of thought with this document. There are those that are very, very conservative and probably undersell or underpredict what they intend to do. And then you get the other extreme where somebody thinks that they're going to set the world alight and put ridiculously high figures in there that they think is going to impress us. We are looking for realistic and achievable cash flow forecasts, okay? And that you've given everything in terms of consideration of all of the costs that you've got there, okay? Now, some of this is difficult to kind of understand what some of those costs may be, okay? The big one being obviously utilities. And we know that that is very, very difficult to plot because at the moment, beyond April, we don't know what the prices are for some of the utility. So we would expect to see in there that you've kind of either given an allowance for the cost to go up as best as you can possibly guess, but we would expect if it is a business that is very heavily reliant on power, that you have built that into your thinking, okay? We'll talk about risk analysis later on in a bit, but they're the kind of things that we're going to be looking at, okay? And what isn't showing on the screen is, again, is the closing cash position, one of the things that we look at and you should be considering. As I say, this is trying to replicate what you think your business bank account is going to look like for the next 12 months. Has anybody got any questions on that?
So I think there is a question there, Mark, from Beaumarie.
Yeah, we did answer that just a minute ago.
Sorry.
Regarding
I thought I saw a hand go up. I do apologise.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it looks
about
like
the
sales projections. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, it is because it's a forecast for the next 12-month period. So it's reasonable to assume that you are going to be selling something in the first 12 months of the business. I appreciate it's not very, it can be quite difficult to work out what that is. And we as business advisors are here to help you come up with that if you do get really, really stuck. But you know your business better than anybody else. So it's reasonable for you to get a bit of an understanding of what you'd be selling in the next 12 months. Okay. So backup plan and personal survival budget. So this is one of the key documents that we need to understand in order to assess your loan about your personal affordability. So every house is completely different. So whether you live with a partner or whether you live solo or house share, however you live, we need you to convey what your personal contribution to the household costs are. Okay, so looking at your income, what comes in, are you going to be working part-time whilst you're starting your business? Do you have child maintenance payments, benefits coming in, trust funds coming through? Do you have income sources from elsewhere? You know, that YouTube channel that you have that generates loads of income. Looking at all your revenue streams and looking at your outgoings. So it's really important to actually evaluate what your outgoings are. Yes, we all know we pay rent or mortgage. Yes, utility bills. Yes, car tax. Yes, car insurance. Grocery bills even, but even looking at the miscellaneous spends. So just as an example, if you go and grab a coffee from any coffee provider in the mornings before you go to work or go to your place of business, and you're spending £3.50 on a coffee 5 days a week, you're spending £76 a month on coffee. So that needs to be factored in to your personal survival budget so that we can see that you've got an idea and a handle on what your personal finances are. When we look at bank statements, we have to check that they align, looking at your credit commitments, etc. And you're going to have to be doing finance. You're going to have to be producing financial documents when you're running your business. If you've had no experience before, then this is a fantastic way to get a bit of an understanding of what comes into your household and what goes out. Lots of people forget to factor in things like the coffee on every morning on the way to work, birthdays and Christmases, other expenses, subscriptions. You know, you've got the Netflix and the Amazon Prime and everything's a subscription service these days. 10 years ago, that might have just been a National Trust subscription. You know, just please try and bring in all of the costs that you have so that we can understand what your financial position is to evaluate your personal affordability for the loan. Okay, so this is what the personal survival budget looks like. So it's got top box, which is all about income, employment, not from the business. This would be external income, but net. And then benefit payments, you can add as many as you like if there's other income streams, and then listing it all here. And then add others if you do have miscellaneous spending, saving for a children's school trip, things like that. Please pop it in there so that we've got a well-rounded observation and understanding of your financial commitments. And then your monthly balance will be down in the bottom box there. And if it's in deficit, then that will carry into the cash flow forecast as well. Okay, so has anybody got any questions about the personal survival budget? No? Right, so we'll move on then. Risk analysis. Mark.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, there's probably a lot of pictures there of things that potentially could go wrong. So obviously with any, you know, there are so many things that potentially that could trip anybody up in terms of starting a business. What we're looking for is that you've kind of given some thought and some due consideration. You know, look, at the end of the day, that, you know, there is always going to be risk with anything in life, you know, but you know, if you just were so scared about risk, you wouldn't do anything. So, you know, what we're looking at is you've kind of thought about potential things that could trip up or you know, kind of derail that business that you're about to launch. So think about things that, are you overexposed in any particular with any particular supplier? You know, are you overextended with one customer? You know, all of these kind of things that we would look into to kind of ask you, what happens if your one supplier decides to cease trading? What happens if you're totally relying on, well, we had one customer recently where a big chunk of his clients were Russian, and basically because of what's gone on in Ukraine, that has basically meant that a big chunk of his customers no longer exist, and he's had to go and find alternative customers in America. So it's kind of those things that you kind of need to think about that, you know, could potentially happen. But I suppose the big thing that always springs to mind is, A, what have you done to mitigate that risk? Okay, now obviously there are certain things that you can put in place in terms of insurance, and it may be that you can kind of look at other alternative suppliers or other alternative customer markets that you might want to go into. So they're the kind of things that we would have had that discussion with you. And one of the kind of main conversations I like to have with customers is what is the one thing that kind of really keeps you, you know, kind of stops you from sleeping at night in terms of the business? What is it that really worries you? What is it that you can do about it? What is it that you can control and do something about? Okay, so in terms of the lender's assessment of risk, because obviously, you know, this is a loan, you've got to pay it back. what we're looking at is, okay, well, what happens if that business were to, ultimately the worst case scenario is the business stops trading. Okay, so we look at this and kind of, well, what it is, what is your plan to kind of repay us? Okay, are there assets that can be sold? Could you find alternative employment? Could the business be sold? All of these kind of things is that we're looking at in terms of analysing that risk, because ultimately, when you're taking on debt, you've got a lender or a liability to a lender that you've got to repay. So, from the lender's assessment is that we need to understand that you've given due consideration about the potential risk, and we're also looking about, well, what is our risk if, for whatever reason, your business goes out of business? Okay, so the risk assessment is obviously one of those kind of things that we look at very, very closely. As I said, there is only so much you can do. We expect that you kind of you're starting up a business, it's projection led. There are potential things that that could trip you up. There are certain things that can happen, world events that you cannot forecast or plan for. In 2019, nobody had even heard of COVID, and look what happened. Okay, how can you plan for a war in the Ukraine? There are certain things that are outside your control. You've just got to think about the things that are potentially that you can control and influence. All right, that's basically it I've got on risk, Joe. I'm just conscious of the time. We've got 6 minutes left.
Yeah, no problem. Has anybody got any questions? No questions? If we don't get through and we don't get through to answering all the questions that you have, do drop us an email. We're more than happy to assist you with your application or any part of this process. So top tips on the business plan: don't ask for more money than what you need. Be able to justify the costings. Keep it concise and straightforward. But it doesn't need to be like War and Peace. Use bullet points to convey that information in short, sharp succession. Give us all the detail that we can. If we need further information, we'll ask you for it. We'll ask you to upload supporting documentation. Business exciting. It is exciting. Explain it all to us. Let us know what excites you, what's empowered you to do this. Also, it's scary. Running your own business is scary, and it's never according to plan, and you have to juggle plates. You're a plate spinner and ball juggler, but it's so rewarding. It really is such a rewarding thing to do. Let us know your mission and values. Let us know what you're passionate about. Okay, so I'm going to move on through these slides quite quickly, but if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. Okay, approaching lenders, it can be daunting, but actually some of the strongest applications that I have are people that know their business. They're able to answer questions that I have straight off, and there's an air of confidence about them because they know their numbers, they know why, and they know. And if you're struggling with the business plan, just imagine one of us talking to you, asking you that question. You should be able to quite simply answer it. The finances, we can assist you with that. We're more than happy to assist you with that. But what your financial outlays would be. Clearly explain what you do and why you do it. It's very important. Okay. Professional support. So the British Business Bank Startup Scheme offers personal loans for businesses. Free support is available from local growth hubs, etc. The loans advisors are here to assist you through that journey too, and there is a mentorship opportunity on the other side of it as well if your loan application is successful. Okay, there's loads of links at the end of this presentation, so feel free. This presentation will be emailed to you all, so you have access to it. So, oh, there you go. I've just answered Nai's question. Yes, we will send you the slides for the webinar, and do not hesitate to get in touch if you want some advice or further clarity. Okay, so Mark, over to
Yeah,
you. Just a
yeah. So
little case study.
yeah, just a couple of sort of interesting case studies there of people that we've supported through the scheme. So yeah, enjoy the air, growing consultancy. Okay, fairly self-explanatory of what the business has done for that, you know, what the funding did for that business. Okay, so our lending decisions, just to kind of put this into context, our lending decisions are made by real people. You know, we you know, there's a lots of things that we take into account, and it kind of brings it to life when you see things like that we get involved in. Okay, because this was a very credible individual, but for whatever reason, most traditional lenders just couldn't get their heads around it, and that's why it's so great that this scheme has been able to kind of put quite a it was a business that had a reasonable kind of long lead-in time before it started to generate revenue. So yeah, it was one of those that we were delighted to help. What's there's another slide, another example there.
Yeah, there's another example. So Yumelo.
Yeah, okay. So this was a scheme that was we'd sort of done as much as that was possible under the startup loan scheme, but because we liked the proposition so much, we also were able to introduce our own funding that we have to kind of help this business. So yeah, as it says there, Swigs funding, we were able to take the company from concept to national distribution with more than 1,000 outlets, and stockets like Ocado, Holland and Barrett. So yeah, quite a range of different kind of you know, propositions that were put together there. As a, you know, just to kind of put it into context, we on average are doing 450 loans a year. So that's 450 businesses that we've supported. So a great scheme nationally since inception. This scheme has lent, it's coming up to £1 billion worth of funding that's been provided, just under that. So it's going to reach that milestone this year. So huge scheme that's been going 10 years, and we hope that it's going to be going on for another 10 years. So there you go. I've got nothing else to kind of to share with you. I don't know if there's anything in the Q&A there, Joe.
No, there's nothing.
Nothing else there.
No, but can I ask everybody to if they've enjoyed if you've enjoyed the webinar today, please go on to LinkedIn. Please go on to LinkedIn and say, convey how much, you know, that you've had a good experience this afternoon. So British Business Bank has got a LinkedIn. Lloyd Breener has got his LinkedIn, and as does Swig Finance. We'd love to see your applications come through and help you through your journey with your business startup. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to make contact, and we will get these slides over to you. If anyone's got any questions, please, this is the last opportunity in the open forum anyway. No? Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming, everybody. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Joe and Mark. Wonderful job, and well done working day in, day out to support startups. What a great thing.
Lovely. I really enjoy it. It's people's lives, isn't it? People's lives. It's a good thing.
Done.
Thank you. Right. So I'm going to turn off the screen share now, and I'm going to close it all down. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.